get into our news. First new headlines. This is from the Business Insider. Goldman, which should be Goldman Sachs, just figured out why the labor shortage will last for a long time. 60% of the missing workers retired, many for good. Reports of labor shortages may not end anytime soon because a hefty number of retirement age workers have left the labor force, and a whole lot of them may not be coming back. A Friday note from Goldman Sachs researchers led by Jan Hassius finds that 3.4 million of the people who left the labor force, meaning they're not working or aren't actively looking for work, are over 55. Roughly 1.5 million of them were early retirements, and 1 million were normal retirements. Those two groups of retirements likely won't reverse, meaning that out of the 5 million workers, Goldman estimates are still missing from the labor force, about half may not ever return. The bad news for a labor crunch market as Wendy's closes dining rooms early, childcare companies in California shutters because it can't hire. Cleaning companies are canceling jobs because they don't have the people to staff them. However, it could be good news for the job seekers who remain and have been able to leverage shortages to get better wages and demand better conditions. I'm not going to read that last bullet point, but so what do we think? I think the past couple of weeks we have discussed labor issues, which made for interesting conversation. So now we kind of have a pinpoint as to where the shortages is coming from. It's coming from people of retirement age is saying, yo, deuces, I'm out.
Yeah, that makes sense to me though. You have the retirement age, so people have said, with the pandemic, I'm retiring. What you just said was 1.5 million of early retirements and 1 million of normal retirements.
Yep.
Part of that is we're not building our workforce, so that's where the problem comes in. We have this social media platform that has allowed people to feel like they can make a bunch of money, being podcasters and YouTubers and bloggers and all that. So nobody's out there trying to get jobs. You know what I mean? We didn't build the next generation of workers. So we built a generation of people on the internet pressing buttons and shit, and that's where we are. It all makes sense to me. Like, it makes sense.
I say the same. Go ahead, Shu.
Well, I was going to say, I have to concur with Smith because it goes right back to the whole bullshit jobs. It's the fact of, okay, if everybody wants to be executive director, assistant, such and such, because everybody can achieve and everybody can have a master's degree and a PhD and so forth and so on, then who's going to be trying to, apply for the jobs that hold everything together? Because it may be the executives and the bosses that are the rods and everything, but it's the bullshit jobs, ones that people don't like, that are the nuts and bolts that hold everything together. Mm-hmm. So, like Smith said, we have created a whole new way of thought where everybody has to go to college and become, executive something. So now, for the people that actually build and maintain the infrastructure, we have no one available. That was smart.
Yeah, that was smart. Like, we have no one available. Like, what the hell?
Well, I'll take my point first, and I'm gonna ask a question. I would agree. I feel like a lot of people really leaving is big part of it is due to COVID. Instead of them going back into the building or whatnot, reaching their risking their health. They're choosing to just fucking retire. I probably do the same thing. But I don't know. Do y'all really feel like nowadays college is pushed a lot more than it was like maybe when we were in school? I kind of feel like people are offering the ideas of, trade schools as an option. I would agree that when we were, growing up, I was just taught like, look, you go to college, you do this, you do that, you get a job and you work until you retire. But you don't feel like the option of, trade school or alternative education is more prevalent now than it was,
I chime in with that.
Years ago?
No, yeah, I think you're right. I think the shift has definitely been made, but I think is an issue, is it too late? based on, prior discussions and what Smith just recently said, we pushed a whole generation to be admin, YouTubers, and nothing that's related to the infrastructure of our society. So we didn't create and this is one of my biggest gripe about the American school system. We didn't have the foresight to really create that pipeline that's necessary to keep the infrastructure in place. Like, we shitted on the necessary jobs that were out there. While yes, it's commendable that a lot of school institutions are trying to make this pivot, but I think it's kind of too late, to be honest.
No comment.
Go ahead.
What Kel said about, do you feel like there's a shift? Like, I graduated high school in the mid 90s and back in 95. Back then we still had trade school classes in school, like wood shop, metal shop, this, that, and the other. We still had those things, I remember working with soldering irons. I remember, building things that we even worked on a car engine at my old school and everything. And I remember commercials that were coming all the time, like Lincoln Tech, which was like contracting work or something of that sort. There was another one that was like it was real common to see all these trade schools on TV. Right now, when's the last time you see a trade school commercial or even heard of a trade school? But yet you hear, oh, you can get your master's degree in 30 days online at, madeupcollege.com. So,
well, I see the Lincoln Techs. The Lincoln Techs.
They got Lincoln Tech and Device still shows up.
Yeah, they run those commercials. I think what the problem is, what the guidance counselors are saying.
I'm just saying the numbers aren't the same as what they used to be.
We were pushed to go to college. It was the same thing that, you were more so
exactly
put your money in a bank, and not understanding that putting your money in the bank was the downfall. I think a lot of the new generation, they got the idea of college isn't the end all be all, and I go to college for 4 years to come out $200,000 in debt. That might not be the smartest decision for me. So that part, I understand. You know what I mean? Like, I get that part, but the other flip side is, okay, so what are you going to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the problem.
And then it becomes, I'm gonna be a blogger. Well, like Zeus said, and I mean, like Cass said, that doesn't help with the infrastructure. You're a YouTuber that doesn't help. That goes back to being a bullshit job. That's an entertainment part facet, but doesn't help us as a society. You know what I mean?
Without the infrastructure, the entertainment factor couldn't exist.
Yeah. And I was in. I see they said that Wendy's had closed some things. I was in Target, and I'm looking around for somebody to help me in the tech department. Like, where they're like, you're understaffed. And I'm like, you're understaffed and around holiday time. Like, what? And at the other part, it's like nobody is trying to work. So I hear the part where about the trade school, but trade means dirt in a sense too. Trade means getting your hands dirty, working with your hand. People don't want to do that.
But that's my thing. Yeah. But that's my thing. That's my thing is the fact of, we have so glorified college. Even if somebody's a C student, we're trying to push them to go to college.
Made no sense.
Because we want to put them in debt and make some more money for ourselves. That's why
we try to push people about that. Obviously, it blows my mind. If you see someone who is not doing well in academics, why are you trying to push them to a higher level of academics?
To a higher level.
It makes no sense. It's like saying, I see that you're barely getting by and, struggling to pay your own bills. Why don't you have some kids? Why don't you just add on to that? Like, it's just the dumbest kind of, don't get,
piggyback. One thing to piggyback as we close that segment, they shouldn't have taken trades out of the school. They took them out of all the schools.
They decimated that pipeline. And and I, to go back to Kelvin's questions that he asked, while they are making that pivot, it's too late. I think it's honestly too late. You can't to have all of these retirees, because this sort of they should have seen this coming. Mm-hmm. I remember watching a documentary, and this guy he fixed watches, And he's like the only guy within like a 30-mile radius that fixed watches because there isn't this sort of pipeline of getting younger people to even do that. So and that's just fixing watches. You can only imagine other industries, a cobbler. Like my wife, she wanted to get her heels fixed, right? I forgot which town she was, like the cobbler that she went to was the only cobbler like within several towns to even fix shoes. Like we shitted on the noble blue collar jobs for so long that it's, while yes, these the guidance counselors today are being open-minded to alternative routes of education and trades, but I think it's too late now. Now, these next 10, 20 years is going to be fucking very interesting for America.
No, it's not. Well, yes, it is. I mean,
yes, it is. It's going to be very interesting. When you find yourself on a waiting list.
Schumer was about to say some dark ass shit. No, it's not.
Yes, he was.
I'm gonna fucking die.
Okay, fine. Fuck it. It is going to be interesting.
I'm not gonna lie. Pull that one back.
Die.
You should have said it, bruh.
Oh no, because I might make a prediction that might actually come true and shit.
That doesn't necessarily. Hey, Smith made predictions, and that shit came true. It is what it is. you know.
I'm just saying. Like all the Mexicans come across the border and they getting $450,000 checks, and they know how to build some shit for cheap. They know how to like do all the shit that nigga. This will be the United States I made for. Okay.
until they get Americanized, and then their next
generation.
Yeah,
that's what's gonna happen.
Next generation of one.
Because there's already a study now that shows that the first generation of immigrant parents, they don't want to do the blue collar jobs. Like for instance, the masonry guy who did my stairs right when I bought my house. He said, his son doesn't want to do none of that shit.
Nope.
So it's something about American culture that kind of breeds laziness.
That was just like the watchmaker's son. The watchmaker, like, I'm not sitting here fixing watches. And it was like the cobbler's son. He's like, I'm not fixing niggas' shoes. Fuck that. Like, that's what's happening. Those, you can't pass those down to your younger generation. You can't pass those down to your sons and daughters anymore. They're not beating doing those jobs. They're like, no, I don't want to do it. Give me the money that you made already, and I'll figure out something.
But that's sad, man, because motherfuckers still need their shoes repaired.
Hey, listen, it's just what it is.
That's a lot cheaper. It made it a lot cheaper to just be able to buy a new pair.
Nah, bro. If it's high quality shoes, nah, man. You want to get that bad boy repaired. It's probably cheap.
Yeah. We got Coleman shoes on Bergen Street. Shout out to Mr. Coleman.
All right, let's go switch it up to the next news headline. So, these past couple of weeks, our President Biden, man, he hasn't been there. 1 minute, he's offering reparations for illegals. The next minute, he says not offering reparations to the illegals, and now he's saying we're offering reparations to the illegals. I don't know.
Yo, that was crazy, yo. Whoever said that was crazy.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So Senile Joe.
Yo, this guy, man.
So this is from Fox News, and I thought this was a great article to really talk about this. Bill Cassidy favors cognitive tests for aging leaders of government, a reasonable plan. Senator Bill Cassidy, a Republican for Louisiana, told Access that he favored cognitive tests for aging government leaders in order to make sure that their ability to serve the American people remain intact. On
Bill
Sundays,
Cassidy, man, I think you called him Cosby by accident.
Shit, my bad.
Yeah, Bill Cassidy, man.
Yeah, Bill Cassidy. Bill Cassidy. On Sundays, Axios on HBO, Cassidy cited past U.S. senators that he said were senile by the end of their times in office to argue a cognitive test applying across all three branches of government will be a reasonable plan. The Speaker of the House is 81. For those who don't know, that's Nancy Pelosi. Wisdom comes with age, but the science is also clear that we aren't who we were and that we lose things with age. As medical professionals, is that something we should be thinking about? Axios Mike Allen asked. Allen asked Cassidy what concerns he had over the fact that medicine allowed government leaders to live longer and lead the country at increasing ages. I'll just speak in general, not in particular. At some point, statistically, it's in the 80s. You begin a more rapid decline. It's usually noticeable. So anybody in a position of responsibility who may potentially be on the slope that is of concern, and I'm saying this as a doctor, Cassidy said. There's a couple of bullet points, but we kind of get the gist of what is being asked by this particular senator, who's also a doctor. So what do we think of a cognitive test, for government leaders, and not just government leaders, just leaders in general, people in society? Should there be a cognitive test for our elders if they're going to resume work?
I think so. I'm all for that, especially if they're going to be making paramount decisions that affect the world, or even not the world, but the United States and even just the community. I also feel like old ass motherfuckers need to retake that driving test once they become a certain age, because I don't feel comfortable with old ass niggas on the road who be driving. Rest in peace to my wife's grandmother, but she fucking knocked off both of her side mirrors backing into her driveway because she couldn't see them shits properly. So I'm all for, making sure that these niggas, especially the ones in power, we making sure that they sharp where they fucking need to be.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to them having a cognitive test. I think they should have one. I think you're still dealing with the slippery slope. You got to figure out what age you're doing that at, because then you start getting into that. This is America, so we start suing for age discrimination and shit like that. But like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she was kind of older. You know what I mean? Like, to be on the Supreme Court until you basically die, that shit seems like kind of like fucked up. You know what I mean? You just get to hold this position until forget taking a test on your cognitive abilities or anything. Like, yeah, you should have to do that at some point. You know what I mean? I don't think Bill Cassidy is too far fetched with this one. But I think it should not just be I think anybody in that position of power, they should have that cognitive test. You know what I mean? Get that shit to superintendents and teachers and principals too. Shit, your old ass need to go. You ain't doing it no more. You just here, just letting the kids do whatever. Get that shit to everybody.
Black Zeus, what you got on putting a test on old people?
It's a two-part question, so I'll go backwards. Kel, I agree with you with the whole driving thing, because my wife's grandmother took out like 2 joggers. So
what?
2 joggers.
What? Yo, I hope they're okay. I hope they're okay. Like, I don't want to laugh at the demise of 2 people who be severe. Like, damn.
Who was just out trying to be healthy and jogging. And grandma just comes strolling along.
You know what's so funny? My wife witnessed some similar shit too, but go ahead, Black Zeus.
Sorry.
Didn't expect that to be today.
But yeah, whole thing is like, so I can agree with that in a general with like Kel and everything. But if after a certain age, if there is a question of a person's mental capacity, you should definitely be testing for that, regardless of whether it hurts their feelings or not. It's not a matter of age, it's a matter of their judgment. And if their judgment's impaired by whatever reason, then something should be done. But overall, I agree with the idea of having testing like that done with all political and power position holders and everything. When you're talking about captain of police, or you're talking about the whoever runs the union, any of these things where someone's judgment can be impaired. But what I think is the true solution to this problem is term limits. The same way a soldier can only serve for 20 years and then must retire, or a president only sits no more than 2 terms for 4 years. Why do we have these people sitting in these positions of power for their entire life.
Could it be, and I'm playing devil's advocate, could it be that when these current incumbent officials run for office again, there isn't a good alternative candidate? So therefore, because you got to place the people, put that blame on the people too for reelecting these old senile folks. It's
absolutely.
No, they got that mentality. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know what I mean?
But that's the people's fault, though, right?
But still, the point is that evolution must continue. So the whole thing is, does anybody still rock with the original iPhone? Does anybody still have a chirp Nextel or whatever the hell? No, we evolve with time. And the whole thing is, a lot of us didn't get an option in this evolution. A lot of older people that with these cell phones that have a touch screen, is too much for them, but they still have to move along or die behind. It's the same thing. Our government should be constantly evolving, forcing people to move up to the top, and forcing people to move off the top.
Okay.
So you're bringing them new ideas.
But some might say that's not democratic because.
Well, bullshit. You don't say that same. It's the same logic about the head of all this shit, the chief commander in chief. So if you want to switch out a new head of everything every 4 years, every 8 years, then what the fuck? Why are you holding on to these assholes for the rest for eternity?
For eternity. Yeah.
Hey man, shit, you got Mitch McConnell, you got Maxine Waters, you got them on both sides. One thing,
on both sides.
Yeah, like I should have read this quote by Mr. Cassidy or Dr. Cassidy. He said that I'm told that there's been senators in the past who, at the end of their term were senile. He said I'm told that was true on senators on both parties, and yeah, man. What was his name? William Byrd. I think he served the longest. My man was a senator for like 50 something years, man. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And nothing gets done. Yeah.
And nothing gets done. I've just been here. I've learned how this game goes.
Exactly.
I get under the radar and get my money.
Yeah.
I agree with Black. You need to have a term on that. Like, you know what I mean? You just chilling.
Yeah.
That's all you doing. You need to have some new blood in it to shake it up. You know what I mean? Get some shit done.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, we commend Mr. Cassidy in his effort, calling it the reasonable plan. They will not look at this at one iota. So there goes that.
They will not look at that.
Yeah, it's just like, what? Nah. Nancy Pelosi.
Cassidy is a Republican too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, we're not going to do that.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. All right. This last news story is going to be a perfect segue to this book. There's a lot of points in here. I try to crop out certain aspects, but there's just too much vital information. So bear with me. Cut me off at any point if you feel the need to. But this is from NBC News. McDonald's CEO apologized after activist says text about shootings was racist. After a black girl and a Hispanic boy were fatally shot this year in Chicago. Chris, come help me out with this foreign last name, fellas. Kinzinski. There we go. There you go, Mr. Smith. Wrote in a text that their parents failed those kids, promoting backlash. Community activists and union leaders in Chicago are demanding McDonald's CEO Chris to sit down with black and brown workers and address systemic racism at the fast food company in response to his reported text message they say is ignorant, racist, and unacceptable. In an open letter signed by a dozen group last week, Kinzinski was given a Wednesday deadline to meet with employees and community leaders in Chicago. The text message was part of an exchange with Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot in April, a day after the fatal shooting of a 7-year-old black girl, Jaslyn Adams, while in a McDonald's drive-thru with her father in the city's west side. A month earlier, the city was reeling from a fatal shooting by police of Adam Toledo, 13, in the predominantly Latino neighborhood of Little Village. Kinzinski was texting with Lightfoot to thank her for visiting the company's Chicago-based global headquarters and wrote the recent shootings were tragic, adding, with both the parents failed those kids, which I know is something you can't say, even harder to fix. I don't know if you guys want me to stop there or proceed, but Lifeboat responded, thanks, Chris. Great to see you in person. Also calling the event's terrible tragedy. The text exchange gained traction last week after activists obtained it through a public records request and shared it on social media. Among the critics was Chicago Adelman Carlos Ramirez Rosa, a member of the City Council Hispanic Caucus. Kanifsky has apologized repeatedly in the wake of the text public release, CNBC reported. It goes into his apology. Okay. The rest of it goes into...
But I remember Adam Toledo. Adam Toledo actually was the kid, the Latino kid that had the gun and shit.
Yes.
I remember that case.
We talked about this earlier. And the Jaslyn
he actually had a gun too.
He actually had a gun. And
in their response to what he's saying, the parent could have failed that young man at that. Although the young man made a decision of his own, parents can only do so much. But the drive-through one, though, saying that the parent fell because we were in a drive-through at McDonald's waiting for a fucking Happy Meal and my daughter gets shot.
Well, let me
call it racist, though.
No, but let me give you the backstory on that one. So I did some research on that.
Yeah, because I don't know that.
So the father is a gang member.
Okay.
The car was tinted. It was a tinted car. He was supposedly, got into some, altercation or had some beef with some, rival gang members. Mm-hmm. And he was a target of a gang hit. Unfortunately, the daughter was in the back seat, at the time in which the gang shooting occurred. So it wasn't like it was a random shooting. It was a targeted hit that led to this young girl losing her life.
So yes, he did fail that young lady also.
Exactly. So as a result of both news story, the CEO said, I understand this is all tragic, but like when you look at these two events, it looks like the parents failed these two kids. And now people are calling his text message racist, which I didn't know there were laws where you can receive, get private text messaging, but nonetheless, what do we think, fellas?
You're not okay. Before you end up with that, just said, what do you think? We know that we're not free in this place of freedom of America. So everything that we're saying on here, whether you have deleted shit or not, that shit is already out there. You understand?
I see what you're saying.
None of this is free. Like when you're recording, there's already records of all this shit that we're saying. And if they ever wanted to go back in, they can go back in and
retrieve all of that stuff.
All the shit you deleted and everything. So we're not free in America. That's the first part. So don't think you can text somebody anything. Anything that you say or say, you better be willing to back that shit up. Because that's what it's gonna boil down to. I still don't think that it was racist. Now we're assuming that Chris is white.
Yes, Chris Kaniski, and I could look up his image. I will.
That Chris is white.
Yeah.
And we're saying that he said it was racist because he said that the parents failed their children.
Correct.
I agree with him on that. I think that the parents did fail their children. I don't see the racist part of it, though. Mm-hmm. If I said it, would it be racist because I'm black? That was one of the things that the book was talking about. He got a real, Ibrahim X. Kendi.
Ibrahim Kendi, yeah.
And Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Yeah, Ta-Nehisi Coates. Yeah.
They're warring with this dude that we're reading.
Yes.
Really?
They are.
Read
big war.
Yeah, it's a big intellectual war.
Intellectual war.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it got that serious.
It's really serious, yo.
It's serious.
Digging in, I was like, wow, this is, because Ibrahim and them did the Anti-Racist Baby. They came out with that book. They just got real, he calls them to the priests.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's calling them to the priests, But yeah, I just thought that. I don't know about the racist part of this though. You know what I mean? I don't know about the racist part of it. I don't see where.
Yeah, I'd agree. I don't, just because they failed him, that's just an opinion. I'm also trying to think, when niggas be giving those deadlines, y'all got until Monday to make an apology. What the fuck happens if they don't make the deadline?
Then you get fired. You get dragged through the fucking.
They just okay.
Yeah, you just get dragged through the
CEO?
mud. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so we're not gonna drag y'all yet. We got some
Yeah.
shit on you. But we're not gonna turn up on you yet. You got till fucking Monday to do that shit.
They'll probably coordinate a strike, a walkout, some shit like how they treated Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, but it's because he said this. They're saying that he got to sit down with black and brown workers and address systemic racism.
But did they ask the black and brown workers how they felt about that shit?
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's just like he's going to, because he said
them niggas might be like, yo, these niggas call me in on my day off. Niggas call me in on my day off just so that this motherfucker can talk to me about some shit I don't give a fuck about.
Yeah, but he has to do a dissertation on systemic racism. Does he even know about that shit? Like, you having him, does this create more of a problem? Does this become more problematic? He simply said that the two parents failed their children. Where's the racial part of that? Where's the racial part of that?
Especially when you do a deep dive like Smith and I have done, knowing the two stories that he's talking about. It's not like he's talking about some random, shooting or anything. He's talking about these particular incidents that involve parents in the situation too. Because I think the Adam Toledo kid, I think he was with an elder, and I think it's probably was his stepfather in that situation that he was running the street with that night.
Yeah, he was his stepfather that was running the street with that night. His stepfather was the one that gave him the gun. Yeah, he was his stepfather. But to add that, this was tragic and that the parents failed the kids, and he's saying that I know it's something that you can't say, but it's something that is even harder to fix, like getting, parents to buy into their own children's, comfort, you know what I mean? Or being able to
well-being.
Yeah, being able to their well-being. That's different, man. That's different. And I think it's one of those things that, again, the woke people have blown way too far. And now you put people in a position where you don't even have honest conversations because people don't want to say shit anymore. Because anything I say is going to be taken out of context, and then you're going to have me fucking up here apologizing to people for some shit I said.
That you don't even probably feel apologetic for.
Yeah.
Genuinely, yeah.
Yeah.
Like Zeus, you
that retard. Using retard instead of intellectual disability, that will have your ass strung up. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, really?
Black Zeus, he's mighty quiet. He's mighty quiet.
No, I was actually agreeing with y'all that there is nothing racist about what was said in that message. It's just a couple people that want to be all hyper holier than thou, I'm oppressed victim bullshit that, that challenges their belief system. But there's nothing in there that a person of any type of rationality would deem as racist, and secondly, it's like, if that was his personal text to a personal person, then there's a lot of people should be concerned about how your privacy can be invaded like this with this whole social media shit and this whole like online shaming bullshit. Because we can clearly see that. Let's say the example of the girlfriend that recorded her boyfriend or whatever he was from the Clippers, saying, "Hey, I don't care if you with these niggas and you're fucking them, just don't bring them up to my luxury box." And this dude lost his share of ownership of the Clippers because he had a beef with his girlfriend. That, like, honestly, it's like, even though I don't agree with his views, he's still entitled to have his own fucking views. And that's the thing was really wrong with this woke bullshit, is that you cannot have a difference of view. That's insane to me.
You know what was sad? Like, even Mayor Lori Lightwood, after the wake of the text message revelation, she didn't back my man. She kind of betrayed him
under the bus. I was looking at that part.
Yeah, you saw that quote? So I would just want to read the quote where she kind of just throws him under the bus. Basically, Life was Office said in a statement that families do everything they can, moms, dads, grandparents, to love and support their children, and tragedies can still happen, which is true. Tragedies can still happen after you do all the right things. And
so that's what we were saying would be the racist if it was a tragedy and you weren't putting yourself in a position.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's two different things.
But then it says
a family would fail. What you use, Kel, the well-being of this child. Like if you know that you're a gangbanger, why would you have your child in a situation where you know that you could possibly get shot at? I'm not going to take my son on the block with me if I know that we banging out there, but people do that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That is on the family member. That is
absolutely, but that's not what the woke mom's gonna say. They're gonna say it's systemic racism that put him in that position that he would have to, survive by doing what he's doing in these streets.
Really? He apologized and all that.
And it basically
over and over and nothing. Like no, the apology is not enough. You got to meet and get a whole lesson on this. And it's like, at the end of the day.
It's about punishing people. It has nothing to do about justice or making shit right or changing anything. It's just about being hired and out and serving them up in the town square in that little block where your head and your arms go through.
Exactly. I see parents failing their children as an educator. I see that shit all the time. I tell the students to be better, that they can be better than what their parents are when their parents are fucking setting them up for failure. You know what I mean? That shit happens. And it is, as you said, what it is. You can't tell me that this parent's not setting them up for failure. That is what's happening. When my man Adam Toledo was running around with the 4.5 on the streets with his stepfather, like what, bruh? Like what? I mean, you 13. Why are you out here running around with this gun with your stepfather?
Yeah.
Trying to be down, like that's poor parenting. Like what the hell? You're not doing. Hey, look, my daughter had a birthday yesterday, right? I told this young man, I said he was the only boy, the only boyfriend that she had over there, right? Only male friend that she had over there. And I was like, I like this guy. My man is like the girls chit-chatting. My man pulls out a book and he's reading this book.
Wow.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whole different kind of concept. Ain't nobody twerking. They reading books. Like that's, you know what I mean? That shit is about a parental thing, man. What you instill and expose your children to, that's what they're going to see. Like, knock it off. Tragedies do happen. These situations weren't tragedies. You know what I mean? These situations were family members putting their children in harm's way.
Well, according to Lori's Life's Office, victim shaming has no place in this conversation.
Yeah, victim shaming. It doesn't matter that I was here to rob this bank with my son in the car.
He's not shaming the victim. The kid is not the kid is the victim. Nobody's shaming the victim.
Lori Life's Office basically, like Smith pointed out, she threw my man underneath the bus.
She started backpedaling because earlier she had said, "Oh yeah, you're right. It's a terrible tragedy." She didn't say, "Hey, but don't victim shame." She didn't say that to him. And then she told people about this conversation.
Yeah,
and she had to. So somebody just arbitrarily knew that we were talking about this, Cash, and went and got my records.
Because you know why the CEO? One, I didn't realize prior to reading this article that McDonald's had a global headquarters in Chicago. Mm-hmm. But when you do a deeper dive in Chicago, and this is something similar that's happening in other metropolitan cities, you got businesses due to like an increased amount of violence and criminal activity. You got businesses saying like, "Yo, we're going to have to close down this shop. Like, we can't operate here if violence and criminality is going to keep occurring." So I think this was, you got CEOs like Walgreens in San Francisco closed down 5 stores because they said, the amount of looting that is happening in these stores, we can't be profitable. We can't sustain. Mm. And I think the CEOs are reaching out with the local officials to try to figure out what is going on. Like, what can we do? And in the midst of doing that outreach, they're also sharing their opinion. Like the McDonald's CEO, he was just like, "Yo, this is crazy." He's like, because, Chris, he's from a different world. He's from a different class. To him, this seems like some third world shit. You got kids getting killed in a drive-through. because of the father's gangbanging. For him, he probably never grew up like that. He's just like, this doesn't make any sense. So the most logical thing he could go to is, yo, this has to be the parents.
But they want him to publicly support policies that benefit frontline employees, particularly those who are earning minimum wage and seeking to unionize. What the fuck does that have to do with what he said? This is our problem with this woke shit. It's like, oh, he said this, let's try to get everything now.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with what he said.
Nothing.
You know, this woke shit is nothing more than a kidnapping of what originally was social justice, you know, and it's social clout. Oh, let me see who I can catch, doing something in their Twitter 8 years ago. Hell, there was one case where a girl, I think it was on MTV, one of those MTV channels, where, one woke person caught another woke person making a Twitter like years ago that was like, slightly bigoted or racist, and they fired that person. Then 2 weeks later, the same person who caught the person who got fired, they got caught with something on their Twitter.
Some crazy shit. Yeah.
It's
you see it happen all the time, like the Dave Chappelle incident.
When you get caught up in your own fucking bullshit, then it's like, wait. I'm a human being. I'm a person. Nah, motherfucker. When you crucified everybody before you, you know what I mean? Like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, man. But I thought this story was an interesting story that was released this week, and I thought this will make for a perfect segue to Black Zeus Book of the Week. Woke Racism by John McWhorter. How a new religion has betrayed Black America. Give us a quick synopsis, brother.
Woke racism.
All right. So basically, this gentleman is a Black associate professor at Columbia University. He says he's liberal and that he's democratic, and he has a major gripe with